for taking the time to do this on short notice. We appreciate it. Your first reaction to seeing Judge Perlman ruled New York 11 unconstitutional.
Well, the judge certainly adds a new dimension to the state by state redistricting wars that we've been seeing since the summer, starting with Texas. What the judge did today was to give the Democrats a victory, but it's too early to tell how far that victory goes since he's ordered the State Districting Commission to go back to work and to develop a new plan by February 6th. We have to keep in mind that the state commission has 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans, and that while they were able to agree on a bipartisan map in 2024 for Congress, there's no sense yet that they would agree on a map where the Republicans would see themselves giving up a congressional district so close to the 2026 elections.
Did you expect the IRC to be involved again here?
Well, that was a call for the judge because he could have sent this map directly back to the legislature and bypassed the commission. It was his decision. And again, this is really an unprecedented, uncharted area in state law, but he thought it best that the commission be directed to go back to work. What he didn't say was what happens after the commission acts, and if it doesn't act, what would happen next, which could mean either he can send this to the legislature or he can appoint a special master and have the map drawn himself. And at the same time, then you're going to see appeals by the Republicans in state courts.
Yeah, I think that there's obviously we look at this potentially as a victory for the Democrats, but the hurdles in the way, you just named one at least. You have a possible appeal process. How long do you think that would take?
And that, well, appeals to the appellate division, the state's intermediate court level, can take a week to 3 weeks, and that would be followed by a final appeal to the State Court of Appeals. And keep in mind that petitioning for this year's June primary gets underway February 24th, so the clock is ticking now faster than it was earlier today.
Yeah, so you have that element. Then the next one would be to have the IRC agree on a map, and then the legislature would then have to approve that still, or would that
But
be a
the
map?
court didn't address that factor.
Okay.
He left that silent, which means that the judge could then decide to send it to the legislature. But what he did not discuss in his decision was what to do if the commission fails to act.
If the commission does act, what
If
happens?
if the commission does act, they'll report back to the judge, and it's his option. He could accept that map and order it to be used. He can have the legislature vote on it. These are options that the traditional redistricting law leaves to the judge.
What does this mean? You talked about nationally, potentially, hypothetically, what does this mean?
Hypothetically, it means that the plaintiffs were seeking to keep Staten Island whole as in one district, but rather than add parts of Brooklyn to the district, add parts of Manhattan to the district. The plaintiffs argued that by adding parts of Manhattan to the district, Staten Island's minority voters will be better represented than having Brooklyn appended, especially as to the Hispanic and Black voters in Staten Island. But from a partisan perspective, the Republicans will see this as a steal by the Democrats of one congressional district, that with the margins as they are in Washington, this would be a win for the Democrats.
Before we get to those margins, this is all possible because of the water, right? Because there's no land separate, there's no land in between Brooklyn and Staten Island, and then Staten
That's
Island.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Staten Island does not have enough population by itself to be a congressional district, and Staten Island has over the years been added as with Manhattan or with Brooklyn. Manhattan and Staten Island did share a district back in the 1970s. It's shared with Staten Island since 1982, so there's no impediment. You've got a bridge, you've got a ferry. There are ways that you can connect districts by water as long as there's a convenient way to go from one piece of land to another.
Between California and Texas, and there's been a few of these dominoes. You mentioned the margin. Is at this point, is it just within a margin of error? It's probably, and you've had some also leave in terms. The Marjorie Taylor Greene isn't going to be. You know what I mean? There's a lot of
almost
elements.
a day-to-day thing. In Texas, the Republicans think they drew 5 more districts, but they're counting on Hispanic support, and they've lost a lot of that in the last 2 years. So there's no real way to gauge this until, races aren't won on paper, they're won based on real voters.
I think that's a really interesting point because I think you look at the narrative over the course of maybe the last year, and it looks like they're trying to fix it. Not fix, that's probably a bad word, but they are trying to change and make these races happen for each respective party on paper. But then you do have the voters, right? They are the wild card element at the end of the day of whether a district is red or blue, right?
Well, both houses of the New York legislature, the Assembly and the Senate, flipped based on maps drawn by the party that thought it would keep power, losing power. So we've seen this happen in New York rather frequently, especially recently with the New York State Senate, where a Republican-drawn map resulted in a Democratic state Senate in 2018. And going back to 2008, that happened twice in recent years.
Is there any potential here for anything to be delayed? I mean, you mentioned petitioning. Does that get delayed at all? And where's
That all depends on what happens next and where we are on February 24th.
yeah.
It's a big question mark now.
Will the IRC be able to do their work while the appeal's going on?
The IRC could do its work. The question is, the IRC has 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans. I believe there's one Democratic vacancy, which can quickly be filled, but there's no tiebreaker. So if they deadlock 5-5, it goes back to the court, and that Judge Perlman, decides what to do next.
So that he took a step forward, but not actually. We don't know the full picture just yet, really, until that map's drawn.
Even though February 24th is quickly approaching, we don't know yet.
And if for some reason we don't know by February 24th, what happens then?
Well, the judge did enjoin, prevent the current map from being used, so he's got to do something.